My parents sued to evict me so my sister could own her first home. In court, my 7-year-old asked the judge, "Can I show you something Daddy doesn't know?" The judge nodded. She held up her tablet, pressed play. When it started, the envelope arrived on a Tuesday morning while Emma was eating cereal at the kitchen table. She watched me open it, her spoon halfway to her mouth, chocolate milk dripping back into the bowl. I remember thinking how strange it was to receive certified mail at 7 in the morning. The return address said Morrison and Fisher Attorneys at Law. My hands shook as I read the first line. Notice of eviction proceedings. I'd been living in the house on Maple Street for 9 years. 9 years of mortgage payments, property taxes, insurance premiums, 9 years of replacing the water heater, fixing the fence after the storm, repainting the shutters every 3 summers. The house was in my name. The deed sat in my filing cabinet upstairs, next to Emma's birth certificate and my divorce papers. But according to the lawsuit, my parents were claiming they'd given me the down payment as a loan, not a gift. They wanted the house transferred to my younger sister Madison, who'd apparently always dreamed of owning this specific property. The same Madison who'd called it a starter dump when I first bought it. The same Madison who'd moved to California for an acting career and came back 2 years later with nothing but credit card debt and entitlement. I read the document 3 times. Each read made less sense than the last. "Mommy," Emma put down her spoon. "Why are you crying?" "I'm not crying, baby." I wiped my face quickly. Something just got in my eye. She tilted her head, her dark ponytail swinging to one side. At 7 years old, she was already too perceptive for comfort. "You always say that when you're sad about Daddy." My ex-husband Derek had left when Emma was 3. He decided that suburban life wasn't fulfilling his potential, whatever that meant. The last I'd heard, he was living in Phoenix with a woman named Amber, who sold essential oils and posted daily affirmations on social media. He sent child support checks that barely covered Emma's after-school care, and he called on her birthday sometimes. The house had been my refuge after the divorce. My parents had given me $50,000 for the down payment. Dad had handed me the check at Christmas dinner, said it was their way of helping me start over. Mom had hugged me, told me every woman deserved a safe place to raise her daughter. There had been no mention of loans, no paperwork, no repayment terms. I called my mother that afternoon. She answered on the 4th ring, her voice bright and cheerful like nothing was wrong. "Oh, honey, you got the papers. Good. This will all be so much easier if you just cooperate." "Cooperate?" I gripped the phone harder. "Mom, this is my house. You gave me that money." "We loaned you that money, sweetie. You must have misunderstood." Her tone stayed pleasant, like she was explaining something simple to a child. "Madison really needs this opportunity. She's struggling, and you know she's always loved that house. You can find another place. You're resourceful. I've been paying the mortgage for 9 years. "Well, you've gotten to live there, haven't you?" "That's something. Madison doesn't have anything." Madison didn't have anything because she spent money like it grew on trees. She'd blown through 2 inheritance checks from our grandparents, maxed out 4 credit cards, and asked my parents for loans she never intended to repay at least a dozen times. But she was the baby of the family, the pretty one, the one who'd never quite had to face consequences. I hung up before saying something I'd regret. My lawyer, Patricia Chen, was a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s who'd handled my divorce. She read through the eviction papers with growing disbelief. "This is insane," she said finally. "They're claiming the down payment was a loan, but there's no promissory note, no loan agreement, no documentation at all. The house is entirely in your name. They have no legal standing." "Can they really do this?" "They can file whatever they want. Doesn't mean they'll win." She tapped the papers with one manicured nail. "But it will cost money to fight it. Court fees my retainer time off work for hearings. They know this. They're probably hoping you'll cave rather than deal with the stress and expense." The stress was already overwhelming. I worked as a medical billing specialist at the county hospital, a job with decent benefits, but no wiggle room for time off. Single parents don't get sick days for existential crises. Emma needed stability routine, a home that felt safe. The thought of uprooting her, finding a new place, explaining why her grandparents wanted to take our house made my chest tight. Over the next 3 weeks, I gathered evidence. Bank statements showing my mortgage payments, property tax records, receipts for every repair and improvement, photos of the Christmas dinner when they'd given me the check, my mother's arm around my shoulders, both of us smiling. Madison called once, her voice syrupy sweet. "Kendall, this doesn't have to be weird between us. I just really need a place. And Mom and Dad said I could have the house. You can visit any time." Visit my own home, visit the place where I'd rocked Emma through colic, where we'd planted tomatoes in the backyard, where I'd finally felt like something in my life made sense. Madison, how is this okay with you? This is where I live, where your niece lives. You're being dramatic. It's just a house. You'll find somewhere else. I hung up on her too. Apparently it was becoming my signature move. Emma sensed something was wrong though. I tried to shield her from the details. She started having nightmares, climbing into my bed at 2 a.m, whispering that she'd dreamed about living in the car. I held her, stroked her hair, promised her that would never happen. But privately, I was terrified. Patricia was confident, but courts could be unpredictable. Even if I won, the legal fees would drain my savings. My parents had money for lawyers, and they weren't backing down. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for early October. Judge Howard Brennan presided over family court, and according to Patricia, he was fair but no nonsense. He didn't tolerate games or emotional manipulation. I dressed in my most professional outfit, navy blazer, gray slacks, minimal jewelry. Emma stayed with my friend Rachel for the day. I told her I had an important meeting. Nothing to worry about. The courthouse smelled like floor polish and old paper. My parents sat on the other side of the courtroom with Madison between them. Mom wore pearls and a pastel cardigan. Dad looked distinguished in his suit, every inch the successful accountant. Madison examined her nails bored. They didn't look at me. Morrison, their attorney, was a slick man in an expensive suit who spoke in practiced cadences. He argued that the down payment had been a loan that I'd always understood I'd eventually need to repay it or transfer the property. He presented a document, a memo of understanding, supposedly signed by me 9 years ago. I'd never seen it before in my life. Patricia objected immediately. Your Honor, this is the first time any such document has been presented. There's been no discovery, no opportunity to verify its authenticity. The signature doesn't match samples of my client's signature from that time period, and conveniently, there are no witnesses to its execution. Judge Brennan examined the document through reading glasses. Mr. Morrison, when was this memo supposedly signed? December 2016, Your Honor. At the time, the down payment was transferred. It's only surfacing now, Morrison said smoothly. The plaintiffs didn't realize it would be necessary until their daughter refused to honor the family agreement. The hearing dragged on for 2 hours. My parents' lawyer painted me as ungrateful as someone who'd taken advantage of family generosity and now refused to help her struggling sister. Patricia countered with facts, mortgage payments, tax records, my clear ownership of the property. Judge Brennan listened without much expression. Finally, he announced he'd review the evidence and issue a ruling within 30 days. We'd return for a full hearing if necessary. I left the courthouse feeling hollowed out. Patricia squeezed my shoulder. We've got a good case. That forged document helps us. Actually, it shows their desperation. But 30 days felt like an eternity. Emma asked questions I couldn't quite answer. Are Grandma and Grandpa mad at us? It's complicated, sweetheart. But why would they want to take our house? I didn't have a good answer. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that sometimes people you love are capable of cruelty? That family doesn't always mean protection. She started spending more time on her tablet playing games and watching videos. I felt guilty about the extra screen time, but I was barely holding myself together. Work, legal preparation, parenting. It all blurred into exhausting days and sleepless nights. Then Derek called. He almost never called outside of Emma's birthday, so I knew something was up. Heard about the lawsuit, he said without preamble. Your mom reached out to me. Of course she had. What did she want? She asked if I'd testify that you're an unstable parent. That Emma would be better off if you didn't have the house, if you moved somewhere cheaper. My blood ran cold. And I told her to go to hell, Kendall. I'm not a great dad, I know that. But I'm not doing that to you. He paused. What they're doing is messed up. That was possibly the most decent thing Derek had said to me in 5 years. We hung up and I cried in my car for 20 minutes before going back inside to face my daughter's questions about dinner. The weeks crawled by. My parents didn't call. Madison posted Instagram photos from a resort in Palm Springs, apparently unbothered by the legal action she'd set in motion. I stopped checking social media. Work became unbearable. My supervisor, Karen, pulled me into her office after I zoned out during a team meeting for the 3rd time that week. Kendall, I need you present. I know you're dealing with something, but patients depend on accurate billing. One more mistake and I'll have to write you up. I apologized, promised to do better, and spent my lunch break crying in my car. The pressure felt crushing. Every morning I woke up wondering if this would be the day I'd lose everything. The mortgage still had to be paid. Emma still needed groceries, school supplies, new shoes, because she'd outgrown the old ones. Life didn't pause for legal nightmares. My friend Rachel tried to help. She brought over casseroles I barely touched and offered to take Emma for weekends to give me a break. But Emma didn't want to leave. She'd become clingy, following me from room to room, asking if we were okay, approximately 14 times a day. "We're fine, sweetheart," I told her, lying through my teeth. The nightmares got worse. Emma would wake up screaming, dreaming that strangers were carrying our furniture out to the street. I'd hold her until she fell back asleep, then lie awake myself, staring at the ceiling, doing mental calculations. If I lost, where would we go? Apartments in decent school districts were expensive. I'd need first month, last month security deposit, moving costs, time off work. Patricia called with updates that were simultaneously encouraging and terrifying. She found 3 witnesses willing to testify that my parents had referred to the down payment as a gift at the time. Neighbors who'd helped me move and remembered my mother, saying how proud she was to help me start fresh with no strings attached. But Morrison was playing dirty too, trying to subpoena my bank records, going back a decade looking for anything to paint me as financially irresponsible. "They're grasping," Patricia said. "But it's exhausting. They know that. They're trying to wear you down." It was working. I'd lost 12 pounds. My hair started falling out in clumps in the shower. Emma found me crying over the bathroom sink one evening and wrapped her small arms around my waist. "It's okay, Mommy. We have each other." Her words broke something open inside me. She was 7 years old and comforting her mother because her own grandparents were trying to destroy us. What kind of people do that? What kind of family operates like this? I called my Aunt Linda, my mother's sister, desperate for someone who might intervene. She listened to the whole story, made sympathetic noises, then sighed. "Honey, you know how your mother is. Madison has always been her favorite. When Madison wants something, your mother moves heaven and earth. I love my sister, but she's got a blind spot the size of Texas when it comes to that girl. Can you talk to her? Make her see how wrong this is?" "I've tried. She won't hear it. Says you're being stubborn and selfish." "I'm sorry, Kendall. I wish I could do more." After we hung up, I realized how truly alone I was. Derek was useless beyond child support checks. My parents had turned into enemies. My sister was a narcissist who saw me as an obstacle. Extended family didn't want to get involved. It was just me fighting for our survival. The financial stress multiplied when my car started making a grinding noise. The mechanic quoted $800 for repairs. I didn't have $800. The legal fund Patricia had helped me set up on a crowdfunding site had raised $3,000 from friends and colleagues, which helped, but it wasn't enough. I started selling things on Facebook Marketplace. The dining room chairs Derek and I had bought when we were still pretending our marriage worked. The treadmill I'd used twice. Emma's old toys she'd outgrown. Emma noticed. "Why are you selling my princess castle? You haven't played with it in 2 years, baby." "But what if I want to play with it later?" I knelt down, looked into her brown eyes that were so much like mine. "We need the money right now for important things, but I promise when this is all over, we'll get you something special." "Deal." She nodded, but I saw the worry in her face. 7-year-olds shouldn't have to worry about money. They should worry about spelling tests and whether their best friend will sit with them at lunch. 2 weeks before the judge's ruling, I ran into my mother at the grocery store. She was in the produce section, examining avocados like she didn't have a care in the world. I could have left. I should have left. But something in me snapped. "How are you sleeping at night?" I asked, stopping my cart next to hers. She jumped, hand flying to her chest. "Kendall, I didn't see you there. How are you okay with this? With trying to take my home, with what you're putting Emma through?" Her face hardened. "We gave you that money. We have every right to ask for it back. If you were reasonable, we could work something out, but you had to get lawyers involved. Make everything complicated. You sued me, Mom. You started this because you wouldn't listen to reason." She lowered her voice, glancing around to make sure no one was eavesdropping. "Madison needs help, Kendall. She's struggling. You've always had it together. Good job. Nice house. Cute daughter. Can't you share just a little bit of what you have?" "Share," I said. "You want me to give Madison my house so she can flip it for profit. That's not sharing. That's theft. Don't be so dramatic. You'll find another place." The casual dismissal of my entire life, of Emma's stability, of everything I'd built, took my breath away. I looked at the woman who had raised me, who taught me to ride a bike and braided my hair for school pictures, who held me when my first boyfriend broke my heart. I didn't recognize her. "Stay away from us," I said quietly. "After the judge rules, whatever happens, I don't want you in our lives." Her eyes filled with tears. "You don't mean that." I've never meant anything more. I left her standing there, abandoned my half-full cart, and walked out of the store. My hands shook so badly I had to sit in the car for 10 minutes before I could drive. When I got home, Emma was at Rachel's. I sat on the couch in our living room in the house my parents wanted to steal and let myself fall apart completely. The doorbell rang an hour later. I almost didn't answer, but it rang again, persistent. Derek stood on my porch holding a pizza box and a six-pack of beer. "Heard you had a rough day," he said. "Rachel called me." I wanted to tell him to leave. Our relationship had ended in anger and disappointment. But I was so tired of being strong, of handling everything alone. "Emma is not here." "I know. This isn't a dad visit. This is a—" He shifted uncomfortably. "I don't know. A human being visit. Can I come in?" We sat at the kitchen table eating pizza straight from the box, not talking much. Finally, Derek said I was a terrible husband. "I know. But what your parents are doing, Kendall, it's evil. I told your mom that when she called me." "You did?" "Yeah, told her she should be ashamed. That Emma deserves better grandparents." He picked at the pizza crust. "I haven't been a great dad, but I'm trying to do better. I called Emma last week just to talk. We video chatted for an hour. She showed me her science project. Something loosened in my chest. She didn't tell me. I asked her not to. Wanted to make sure I'd follow through before getting anyone's hopes up. But I'm going to keep calling weekly, and I'm going to send more money. Not a lot. Amber and I are still paying off debt, but more than I have been. It wasn't a grand gesture. It wasn't enough to make up for years of absence, but it was something. A small kindness in a sea of cruelty." "Thank you," I whispered. After Derek left, I cleaned up the pizza box and beer bottles. The house felt different somehow. Quieter, but not in a lonely way. In a peaceful way, like maybe, just maybe, things would work out. 3 days before the judge's ruling was due, Emma came to me with her tablet. She'd been secretive about it lately, tilting the screen away when I walked past. "Mommy, I need to show you something." She pulled up a video. The angle was low, like someone had set the tablet on a table and left it recording. The audio was clear, though. I recognized the voices immediately. My mother, father, and Madison talking in my parents' living room. The timestamp showed it was from 2 months ago, right around when the lawsuit was filed. "She'll cave," Madison said. "Kendall always caves. She's too nice. And if she doesn't," that was my mother sounding concerned. "Then we push harder," my father said, his voice cold, calculating. "The forged memo should be enough." Morrison said judges usually side with parents in family disputes. "I still think we should have just asked her," Mom said quietly. Asked, Madison laughed. "She would have said no. This way we get what we want. I need this house, Mom. I can flip it in a couple years. Make some real money. Kendall will find some apartment." "What about Emma?" Mom again, barely audible. "Kids are resilient," Dad said. "Kendall's being selfish, holding on to property that could help her sister get ahead. This is the right thing." The video continued for another minute, discussing strategy, laughing about how I'd probably cry in court, speculating about how long I'd fight before giving up. I stared at the screen, numb. I called Patricia immediately. She came to the house that evening, watched the video 3 times, and smiled grimly. "This changes everything. They admit to forging the document. They admit this is about Madison profiting from the property," she said, "and they've essentially confessed to fraudulent litigation." She looked at me over her glasses. "How do you want to play this?" "I want them to drop the lawsuit," I said, "and I never want them near Emma or me again." "We can do better than that," Patricia said. "We can countersue for harassment, legal fees, emotional distress. With this evidence, we can also report the forged document to the state bar. Morrison could lose his license." The thought gave me no pleasure. I just wanted it to be over. Patricia had other ideas. "Kendall, listen to me. These people tried to destroy you. They forged legal documents. They used the court system as a weapon. If we don't push back hard, they'll just try something else down the line." "I'm so tired of fighting." "I know, but you've got a nuclear bomb in your hands now. That video is everything. We can make sure they never try this again with anyone." She leaned forward, her expression intense. "And you can set Emma up financially. The countersuits could bring in serious money." I thought about it. About Emma's college fund, which was pathetically small. About the repairs the house needed. The roof was showing its age. The HVAC system wheezed like an asthmatic. About having a cushion, a safety net, so we'd never be this vulnerable again. "Okay," I said, "do it." Patricia filed the countersuits the next day. Fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress, abuse of process. We weren't just playing defense anymore. We were going on the offensive. My father called that evening, his voice tight with rage. "You're suing us, your own parents. You sued me first, Dad. You started this war. This is about money now. We raised you better than this, Kendall." The hypocrisy was staggering. "No, this is about making sure you never do this to anyone else. It's about consequences. Actions have consequences. You taught me that, remember." He hung up. 20 minutes later, Madison called screaming. "You vindictive bitch. Mom is having a breakdown because of you. She's talking about going to the hospital. Then maybe she should go, I said coldly. Maybe a professional can explain to her why destroying her daughter's life is traumatic for everyone involved. I hate you. The feeling is mutual. Madison, don't call me again. I blocked her number, then my father's, then my mother's. Patricia had said all communication should go through her anyway. It felt good closing those doors like amputating infected limbs to save the body. Emma asked about the yelling. My house wasn't that big, and Madison's voice had carried. I explained that Aunt Madison was upset, but that everything would be okay. Is Aunt Madison a bad person? Emma asked, her face serious. How do you answer that? Madison wasn't evil, just selfish. She'd been spoiled and enabled her entire life until she genuinely believed the world owed her whatever she wanted. She made bad choices, I said carefully. Sometimes people we love disappoint us. It doesn't mean we're wrong to have loved them. It just means they weren't who we thought they were. Emma processed this, nodding slowly. Like how Daddy left, but now he's trying to be better. Kinda like that, yes. Do you think Aunt Madison will try to be better? I doubted it, but I said I hope so, baby. Everyone deserves a chance to grow. The days before the hearing felt surreal. I went to work, came home, helped Emma with homework, made dinner, normal life marching forward while everything hung in the balance. Rachel came over most evenings, keeping Emma entertained, while I reviewed documents with Patricia over video calls. The evidence was overwhelming. Beyond the video, we had the forged memo that Morrison had stupidly submitted my bank records, showing years of payments testimony from witnesses, and most damning, no documentation whatsoever of a loan agreement. Patricia had also subpoenaed my parents' bank records, which showed they'd given Madison over $100,000 in the past 5 years. Actual gifts, no strings attached. They'd funded her failed acting career, her credit card debt, her car when she totaled the old one. But the one time they'd helped me, suddenly it was a loan that needed to be repaid. The double standard was infuriating. Patricia had one more card to play. She tracked down Morrison's paralegal, a young woman named Sarah, who'd quit his firm 2 months ago. Sarah was willing to testify that Morrison had known the memo was forged, that he had her doctor the document to make it look older, and that he told her to keep quiet about it. She's furious, Patricia told me. He threw her under the bus when the bar started investigating, tried to claim she'd done it without his knowledge, but she kept emails, receipts, everything. Will she be at the hearing? Oh yes, she's looking forward to it. The night before court, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined things going wrong. The judge not believing us. The video being inadmissible for some technical reason. My parents somehow turning this around, then playing the victims, making me look like the ungrateful monster daughter. At 3 a.m, Emma appeared in my doorway, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Can't sleep either, she asked. I patted the bed. She climbed in, snuggling against me, her small body, warm and solid. Are you scared about tomorrow, I asked. A little, she said, but Miss Patricia said I'm very brave, and the judge seems nice. He does seem nice. Mommy, after tomorrow, will everything be normal again? I wanted to promise her that, to guarantee that life would return to the way it was before, but I'd learned not to make promises I couldn't keep. It'll be better than normal, I said instead. It'll be better because we'll know we fought for what's right and won. You promise we won't lose our house. I promise, no matter what. She fell asleep in my arms, her breathing deep and steady. I stayed awake, watching the dawn light creep through the curtains, preparing myself for what was coming. The final hearing was on a Thursday morning. This time I brought Emma. Patricia had suggested it, and Judge Brennan had approved the request. Emma wore her favorite dress, the purple one with flowers, and carried her tablet in a small backpack. The courtroom filled with the same players. My parents looked confident. Madison was on her phone. Morrison shuffled papers importantly. Judge Brennan called the hearing to order. He began by stating he'd reviewed all evidence and was prepared to rule on the eviction case. Before he could continue, Patricia stood. Your Honor, if I may, we have new evidence that's relevant to these proceedings. Morrison objected, claiming surprise. Judge Brennan allowed it with a warning that it had better be substantive. Patricia nodded to me. I stood, my heart hammering, and helped Emma step forward. She looked tiny in the large courtroom, but her voice was steady. Excuse me, Judge Brennan. He looked down at her kindly. Yes, young lady. Can I show you something my daddy doesn't know about? She paused, then corrected herself. Actually, Daddy knows now because Mommy told him, but Grandma and Grandpa and Aunt Madison don't know I have it. Judge Brennan's eyebrows rose with interest. What would you like to show me? Emma held up her tablet. Can I play a video? The judge nodded. A bailiff helped connect the tablet to the courtroom's display system. The screen on the wall flickered to life, and then it started. The voices filled the room. My mother, father, and Madison discussing their plan in casual, callous detail. the admission of forgery, Madison's intention to flip the house for profit, my father's cold dismissal of his granddaughter's well-being, the laughter about making me cry. I watched my parents' faces drain of color. Madison's mouth fell open. Morrison looked like he wanted to sink through the floor. The video played to the end. The courtroom was silent. Judge Brennan removed his glasses slowly. "Let me make sure I understand what I just witnessed," he said. "You filed an eviction lawsuit against your daughter based on a forged document with the intention of transferring her property to your other daughter for financial gain. You discussed this conspiracy in detail, including your knowledge that the document was fraudulent." He looked at Morrison. "And you, counselor, presented what you apparently knew, or should have known, was a forged document to this court." Morrison started to speak. Judge Brennan held up one hand. "I'm not finished. You also showed a callous disregard for your 7-year-old granddaughter's well-being, dismissing the impact this would have on a child who's already experienced family instability." He turned to Emma. "Young lady, that was very brave of you to record that conversation and to bring it forward. Thank you for helping this court find the truth." Emma nodded solemnly. Judge Brennan's gaze moved back to my parents and Madison. "The eviction case is dismissed with prejudice. You will never file such an action against your daughter again regarding this property." My breath caught. "Furthermore, I am ordering you to pay all of Miss Kendall Hartley's legal fees and court costs." Dad started to protest. Judge Brennan's expression stopped him cold. "Additionally, you will each pay $10,000 in sanctions for bringing this fraudulent case before this court." My mother was crying, not the delicate tears she used for sympathy, but ugly, desperate sobs. Madison stared at the floor. My father looked older, suddenly shrunken. "I am also referring this matter to the State Bar for investigation into Mr. Morrison's conduct," Judge Brennan continued. "Presenting forged documents is not just unethical, it's criminal." He looked at Morrison, who seemed to be having trouble breathing. "You're fortunate I'm not holding you in contempt right now." Judge Brennan signed several documents, handed them to the bailiff, and dismissed the court. Patricia squeezed my hand. "It's over." Emma looked up at me. "Can we go home now?" "Yes, baby," I said. "We can go home." We walked out of the courthouse into October sunshine. My parents tried to approach as we reached the parking lot. Patricia stepped between us. "My client has no interest in speaking with you. All future communication goes through me." My mother reached past her. "Kendall, please, we can fix this. We made a mistake." "You tried to make me homeless," I said. My voice came out steady, stronger than I'd expected. "You forged documents. You conspired to steal my home so Madison could make money. You laughed about making me cry." I pulled Emma closer. "And you didn't care what it would do to your granddaughter." "But we're family," Mom whispered. "No," I said. "Family doesn't do what you did. Family protects each other." I turned away, took Emma's hand, and walked to my car. Behind us, I heard my mother still crying, my father trying to quiet her. I didn't look back. The aftermath took weeks to settle. Morrison was suspended by the State Bar, pending investigation. My parents' attorney sent a check for my legal fees, $32,000. The sanctions took longer, but eventually 3 checks arrived, each for $10,000. I put the money into Emma's college fund. Madison sent a single text, "I'm sorry." I didn't respond. She moved to Texas with a new boyfriend a month later. I heard she was bartending and claiming to be an influencer. I blocked her number. My parents tried to reach out several times. Letters, emails, showing up at Emma's school once before I threatened a restraining order. Eventually, they stopped. I heard through mutual friends that they told everyone I'd overreacted, that it had all been a misunderstanding. The friends who believed that weren't friends worth keeping. Derek surprised me by sending an extra check for Emma's birthday with a note. "Heard you won. Proud of you." It wasn't much, but it was something. Emma adjusted better than I'd expected. We talked about what had happened in age-appropriate terms. She understood that her grandparents had made bad choices, that sometimes adults make mistakes. She asked if we'd ever see them again. "I don't know, sweetie. Maybe when you're older, if they make real amends, but not now." She seemed okay with that. Children are resilient, though not in the cruel way my father had meant it. They're resilient because they trust the adults who protect them, who choose them, who put their well-being first. The house felt different after the lawsuit. Lighter somehow. I'd always loved it, but there had been a small part of me that felt like it wasn't entirely mine, like I owed something for the down payment. The judge's ruling had erased that. This was my house earned through years of payments and sweat equity and stubborn persistence. Emma and I painted her bedroom together that winter, a soft lavender she'd chosen herself. We hung pictures she'd drawn, put up shelves for her growing book collection. I made sure she knew this was her home, that no one could take it from us. 6 months after the hearing, spring arrived with cherry blossoms and warmer weather. Emma and I planted a vegetable garden in the backyard, something we'd talked about for years but never had time for. Life had finally settled into a comfortable rhythm. The bar investigation was still ongoing. Patricia had warned me it could take a year or more, but Morrison had been suspended immediately after the hearing. That was enough for me. Derek had kept his promise about weekly calls. He even visited twice, taking Emma to the zoo and the Children's Museum. He wasn't winning any Father of the Year awards, but he was trying. That counted for something. One evening in early June, almost 8 months after the hearing, my phone buzzed. A message from Patricia. Bar investigation concluded. Morrison has been disbarred. Full report attached. Justice served. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, "Thank you for everything." Justice had been served. The house was secure. Emma was safe and happy. I'd lost my parents and sister, but truthfully, I wasn't sure I'd ever really had them. What I did have was stronger. A daughter who'd been brave enough to seek truth. A home that was truly mine. And the knowledge that I'd fought for what mattered and won. That night, I tucked Emma into bed and kissed her forehead. She smiled sleepily, her tablet charging on the nightstand. The same tablet that had captured the moment everything changed. Sometimes justice comes from unexpected places. Sometimes it takes the clarity of a child to reveal what adults hide. And sometimes the family you fight for is small, just you and one brave little girl. But it's enough. It's more than enough. It's everything.